Hi there, Everypony. Do you want to hear a club fic? No? Well, I'm going to read it anyway. The Luxury Lotus Spa Follies by Butterscotch Sunday. The Luxury Lotus Health and Beauty Spa Follies, starring Twilight Sparkle and a special guest star. Welcome to the Luxury Lotus Health and Beauty Spa, Miss Sparkle, said the pink-maned earth pony at the front desk as Twilight walked in. Are you here for your usual treatment? The unicorn pony looked about shyly. Yes. Yes, please, Bubbly. Ever since the time when Fluttershy had become a model and Twilight had been stuck juggling secrets between her and Rarity, she'd gained a taste for visiting the spa. But she was worried that she would be teased by her friends after all those beauty is more than skin deep lectures she'd given them. And anyway, just because I love books and reading and history and magic and all that sort of thing, it doesn't mean I can take some time off for a makeover, does it? She thought to herself. No, of course it doesn't. Twilight sighed. Juggling those secrets had been a total nightmare. But by far the worst thing had been, she glanced nervously at the large mirror in the foyer as she waited for Bubbly Lotus to collect some towels and oil and other items for her to use in the bath. No, Pinky. She exhaled in relief. Sometimes that little pink pony scared her. This way, Miss Sparkle. After helping her to put on her spa robe, Bubbly led Twilight down a long corridor decorated with gorgeous photos of tranquil scenes. Mountain glades in the Swayback Mountains, leaf-strewn paths in the Whitetail Woods, skies peppered with lazy little cotton ball clouds, and all the while the soft tones of flute and shamisen music shimmered through the air. Twilight found herself relaxing at once, each hoof step lighter than the one before it. The tightness in her chest from leaning over books for hours starting to dissolve away. She never used to be one for beauty treatments. She did like long baths though, but only if she had a good book to read while she was lying in the tub. Each time she came to the spa, she tossed up whether or not to smuggle in a book which hadn't quite finished yet. This time it had been a book of old echoish poetry, but each time she decided not to. She had to drag herself away from her books sometime, and a visit to the spa was an ideal excuse. Besides, she was nervous that the other spa-goers would laugh at her. Soon they came to the sliding doors that led to the common bath. But Bubbly led her past it towards the part of the spa where the private suites were located. Oh, but I didn't, Twilight started to say, but Bubbly turned to her and smiled. Oh, Miss Sparkle, you're a regular now, so please accept a private bath suit compliment of the Lotus Spa. She lowered her blue eyes shyly. We all appreciate the great deeds you have performed for Ponyville. Oh, I remember that evening you defeated the fearsome Ursa. Think of these just as a little thank you. Twilight smiled back at her, blushing. Thank you, she said. She thought that no pony remembered the Ursa Minor incident. It had happened to her first week in Ponyville, and like most things in this strange little town, it had been forgotten as soon as the next threat had come along. Wait, had it been the sleeping dragon, or the parasprite infestation that had come next? Or had it been... But Bubbly was already opening the door to a private suite open for Twilight. The unicorn pony had never been in one before, and as Bubbly led her inside, she took in the low square bath and one corner lit by a multitude of gently flickering tea candles, the lotus flowers floating on its surface visible through thin tendrils of steam. The round mud bath on the other side of the room, filled with refreshing purple mineral-rich clay. The gorgeous fleece-covered massage couch, another massage mat resting next to it on the floor. It was also, well, simply luxurious. Bubbly gestured towards the bath that was sending out tendrils of steam. Oh, everything smelled so heavenly. Twilight slipped out of her bathrobe and put a testing forehoof into the water. It was boiling hot and she gasped initially, but kept her hoof in, swirling it about until she adjusted to the temperature. Then she eased the rest of her body in the lotus blossoms fleeing from her as her lavender body slid into the water. The scent of ginger and lemongrass fluttered up to her muzzle and she sighed again. She glanced over to where Bubbly was busying herself at a small table arranging the towels she'd brought and sorting through a number of vials of facial and body cream and bottles of massage oil. And when she noticed Twilight looking at her, the spa pony smiled back at her sweetly. Twilight lay back fully and closed her eyes. The water felt so good. She scrunched all four hooves and swished her legs around in the water, which flowed about them in a most fascinating pattern. She marveled at how the water reacted, flowing and swirling about her invisibly. It was certainly some complicated magic. Her fringe soon grew moist in the rising steam, lying on her forehead in strings, so she brushed it back past her horn and slid still deeper into the bath. Twilight sighed again and let her body go totally limp, allowing the hot water to lift her up and support her weight. As always happens when one sense is removed, the others became stronger for Twilight. Floating in the black world behind her closed eyelids, she listened to the swish of the hot water against the edges of the tiled bath, the soft burbling of fresh water purring from the ever-running faucets. Over to the left of her, Twilight could hear the clink of bottles and the shuffle of material, as the spa pony continued dutifully in her preparation for the massage and facial treatment she would be giving her later. After what seemed a blissful eternity, Bubbly's voice waved over to her. "Are you ready for the massage, Miss Sparkle?" Twilight had dozed off to sleep in that wonderful universe of steam, water, and fragrant bubbles. She opened her eyes and got out of the water with yet another sigh. But when Bubbly took it upon herself to help her dry her coat, Twilight had to stifle a giggle. She'd always thought it felt a little strange to have somebody else dry her coat. It was like being a child again. But Bubbly smiled at her reassuringly, her touch gentle and sensitive, and Twilight was soon murmuring in pleasure. Finally, the spa pony indicated that she could lie down on the massage table. Twilight lay down, sighing as she rested her muzzle on the soft, fleecy surface. She'd almost dozed off again when she heard Bubbly open a bottle, and she gasped when she felt a sudden fluid of cool liquid onto the small of her back. "Oh, please excuse me, Miss Sparkle," said Bubbly, distraught. Twilight shook her head, but then she gasped a second time when she felt the spa pony's hooves touch her coat. They dipped gingerly into the little pool of oil, spreading it all over her back and down onto her rump as well. And she found herself blushed hot against the fleas. Bubbly hummed to herself as she drew her soft but firm hoofs across Twilight's back. She started at the unicorn's pony's neck, squeezing away the pinches that had developed there after so many hours of purring over books. Then the spa pony worked her way down Twilight's shoulders and withers, her hoofs sticking into the knots that had bunched everywhere, and already loosened by the hot bath, she eased them back into supple flesh. Bubbly suddenly stopped humming. "Does that feel good, Miss Sparkle?" she asked. Twilight murmured in the affirmative, licking her lips to stop the drool that had pooled at the corners of her mouth from dripping onto the fleas. Bubbly, obviously pleased by her lack of coherent answer, continued to hum. Twilight suddenly realized that she recognized the tune from somewhere, but where had she heard it? It wasn't so much a melody as some sort of fanfare. "Would you like to crack your spine for you, Miss Sparkle?" the spa pony asked. Twilight nodded. Why not? But she gasped when she felt Bubbly reposition her body and nimbly climb onto the table on top of her. Hind legs on either side of Twilight's rump, she leaned forward and started to work on either side of Twilight's spine, and with gentle but powerful pumps of her forehoof she made it crack. Twilight's eyes flashed open. It felt amazing. And it wasn't just a pleasure from the cracking that she was feeling. For every time Bubbly leaned forward, the spa pony would lift her own rump and haunches with every pump, and then she'd sit back again on the small of Twilight's back and the base of her rump once it had cracked. Bubbly's coat felt so warm and soft against her own. Twilight soon found herself panting with pleasure.